The Titanic is a well-known ship disaster, but there were other historic cruise ships that faced similar fates. Early cruise ships were built in the 1850s, gaining popularity after the World Wars. These ships were mostly for wealthy people. Back then, cruise trips were risky, unlike today's safer journeys due to better technology. This video will tell you about some major cruise ships that sank in water. Number 6. SS Eastland. In 1915, a sightseeing ship in Chicago that people used for tours had a terrible accident. It was parked by the river when suddenly it tipped over into the water, and 844 people died because they couldn't get out. This was a big disaster in the history of the Great Lakes. The accident happened while around 2,500 people were getting on the ship for a trip in Michigan. The reasons for the disaster could have been problems with how the ship was built, having too many people on board and not having enough weight to balance it in the water. Number 5. SS Andrea Doria. The SS Andrea Doria sank because it crashed into another ship called Stockholm. This happened because the radar readings were misinterpreted. It is also famous for being one of the biggest collisions caused by radar. The incident happened in July 1956 near Nantucket, Massachusetts. The ship was going to New York. It hit the other ship on the right side of the bridge. Waves surrounded it after 11 hours, giving nearby ships enough time to help after the distress call. More than 50 people died, mostly from the crash, and over 1,650 were saved. Number 4. RMS Lusitania. In 1915, a German submarine attacked RMS Lusitania. This event played a big part in the United States joining the First World War. The ship was hit because it had weapons for Britain's military. The submarine, named U-20, attacked the cruise ship while it was traveling from New York to Liverpool. The ship was really huge and fancy back then. It was about 240 meters long and 27 meters wide, and it sat about 10.2 meters deep in the water. It could carry 2,160 passengers and over 800 crew members. When the ship sank, 1,201 people died, with most of them being Americans. Number 3. MS Estonia. The cruise ferry MS Estonia crashed in the Baltic Sea and sank in 1994 while traveling from Tallinn to Stockholm. It went down because its front door locks couldn't open during a storm. Strong winds blowing at 35 to 45 miles per hour made the ship tilt to the side. The ship was filled with water and eventually sank in it. Sadly, 852 people lost their lives out of the 2,000 on board. Only 137 passengers were able to survive. Number 2. Costa Concordia. The big ship Costa Concordia sank because the captain and an officer made a small mistake. Here's what happened. The ship hit a big rock under the water when it was very close to an island called Isola del Giglio on January 13, 2012. The captain, Francesco Schettino, turned off the computer alarm that warns about the ship's path because he thought he could steer the ship by himself. But he didn't have his glasses, and by the time he got them, the ship was already damaged. The ship tipped over and sank near Tuscany. Even though rescuers worked for 6 hours, 34 people lost their lives. What's really surprising is that the captain left the ship, even though 300 passengers were still on it. In 2017, he was found guilty of causing those deaths and was given a 16-year prison sentence. Number 1. Titanic. The most famous cruise ship accident was of RMS Titanic. It was a huge fancy ship that people loved to travel on. It was so big that it could carry more than 3,000 people. But sadly, on its first trip from Southampton to New York, it hit a big piece of ice in the ocean and sank inside the water. This happened in April 1912, and more than 1,500 out of 2,208 people on the ship died because it sank quickly and the water was very cold. The movie made by James Cameron in 1997 told the story of this disaster. The Titanic was really long and wide, and it had lots of floors where people stayed. It also had a lot of lifeboats, but not enough for everyone, which is why many people couldn't be saved. What's your take on these sunken ships? Tell us in the comments section below. That's it for today's video. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos.